So my name is Oliver. We did a sound check beforehand, so I hope you can all see my screen and my mic is working well. Yeah, otherwise please let me know in chat. Yeah, so I'm Oliver. I work at Parity since a bit over 3 years. Before that, I was doing stuff in Ethereum, like state channels. And yeah, currently I'm mostly working on runtime code. I help a bit with the release management, and yeah, I'm also in the Polkadot Fellowship. And yeah, so I'm here today to talk about AssetHub migration, since I'm directly involved in that. But besides that, afterwards, you can ask any questions like about Jam or AssetHub migration, or can be anything runtime related. Okay. So with AssetHub migration, let's first check what I'm going to talk about. So as first point, I will talk about why are we even doing this. Otherwise, I think it's difficult to understand like without knowing why, like what's even happening. Then the second thing, like how are we going to do it? Then so that's basically yeah, just our strategy, and then our what is like basically how exactly it's going to happen. And then oh sorry, I think I hear one echo.
Hey, Milani, could you please turn off the mic? Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Yeah, then like for zooming out, it's like basically checking like overall context. What are we doing here? And yeah, then discussion. You can ask any questions you want. Okay. So what are our goals here? I think that's most important to talk about for such a big project. Like it's a huge project. There's like tons of
Could you
people.
maybe
Oh, sorry.
reshare your slides?
Yeah.
It's not showing on stream.
Oh, it paused. Did it pause or something? Oh damn. That's annoying. Okay. Well, works again or?
Yeah, it looks good now. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. I hope it stays like this. Yeah. So with such a huge project, it's at Parity there's I think like 30 people or so working at it, and from the ecosystem there's like external teams also helping us. So what are our goals here? Top priority would be to have well, like basically it's an optimization problem that we are trying to solve, and there are some properties that we want to maximize while keeping other properties small. Basically like in math, like an optimization problem. And some things that we want to maximize are the developers that are using Polkadot and the projects that are building on top of Polkadot. And some things that we want to minimize, on the other hand, are like the logic that's on the relay chain. That's as a preparation for Jam. And we also want to minimize the disruptions that are experienced by people that are currently using Polkadot. Like ideally, it should be such minimal disruption that you just wake up one day and someone tells you the AssetHub migration was done, and you ask, okay, what was that? Like, what's AssetHub migration? Like basically, it should be in such a way that people they don't hear about it, they don't need to know about it. It's just the outcome is that it will like Polkadot will be cheaper to use, and you can have like more powerful contracts. Let's go to the next slide. So the assumed effects here from our goals. This is basically like second order goals. Are a larger talent pool on Polkadot. That's just good to have. Currently, we are only with our parachain offering and Rust developers. People need to know Rust. They need to know how to develop runtimes. That's like a very small talent pool. So yeah, that one of these assumed effects would be larger talent pool. Then exponential flywheel of adoption. What I mean here is that if you have more projects in there, then every new project joining into the pool already profits from all the other existing ones. So it becomes basically better the more projects you have. We saw that like with parachains already. Like they can now, everyone can use hydration. For example, the treasury can use hydration, and other parachains can also use it. And it basically enriches each new project that joins in. Yeah, the next one is that proof that Polkadot is ready. Basically open for business. That is just to say that like people say, yeah, Polkadot is like, I don't know what, not really usable or whatever. Like one of the effects of AssetHub migration would be to demonstrate that that's definitely ready for use. Yeah, and then by after demonstrating our readiness here, we hope for business adoption. It's basically, I think the other steps are quite necessary. Otherwise, if you don't really show to the world how ready your project is, you can't really expect businesses to just adopt it, right? Like a business doesn't necessarily or often doesn't want to adopt some high risk solution. Like they use Amazon and Google Cloud because they know they're very reliable and battle tested. And I think we also need to get into such a position in order to attract larger businesses that they see, okay, Polkadot is very stable and it's reliable. Yeah, then the last point is confirmation of our assumptions. This is like more a philosophical point, but like anything we do here, any strategy or goals that we set out, we kind of have some underlying assumptions. And from these underlying assumptions, we then make a prediction into the future. We say, okay, we should do AssetHub migration because it will benefit us. Now, if this somehow doesn't benefit Polkadot, then we need to backtrack into our reasoning and go back, since one of these assumptions must have been wrong. And then we can say, okay, maybe if we correct our assumptions about reality, we can then in the future make a better prediction on how to improve Polkadot. Okay. Yeah, so that's for the goals. Then for the how more strategically. So how are we going to achieve these things? Mainly through improved DevX, so developer experience. That's basically how easy it is for people, for developers to get going and to keep going, to keep developing. And the main points here that we're trying to address are like easier onboarding. That's like I put tutorials and documentations as points there, but that's like two sub points of it. Like generally easier onboarding is important for DevX. Then reduced barrier to entry. Now, this is different from easier onboarding because you can have like a complicated product which is still easy to onboard, but that's not what we really try to do here. We try to have a simple product that's also simple to onboard. So it's kind of like a reduction of complexity, which then hopefully translates to a reduced barrier to entry. Yeah, and more concretely, this is like done through smart contracts. Yeah, since they're like a very well-known tool, I would say now in blockchain, different to parachains or roll-ups where you have a lot of customization necessary. Smart contracts are rather easy to understand in this regard. Okay, and yeah, last point here is like familiar tooling. That's very important. Like currently, our tooling is very parachain focused, and yeah, it's like not really understandable, or like, I mean, it is understandable if we really go into the details, but it's not a well-known name at all. So with familiar tooling, we want like Hardhead and these other kind of testing CLIs that people use to develop Ethereum contracts. Yeah, then like that's for the developer experience, and but like if we just take developer experience, that would be all fine to have on AssetHub basically. But then you would still just be on AssetHub and can only do balance transfers with your contracts. That wouldn't really be that interesting. So we also aim at this collocation of data and logic, and that's basically we want to move a lot of the logic from the relay chain to AssetHub, and yeah, not just the logic but also the data. So it's like both present on AssetHub, and this would then allow synchronous composability, which basically means that a smart contract would be able to call into a governance palette, for example, into the bounties palette, or it would be able to even write a completely new bounties program that just uses Solidity contracts, for example. Like currently, like this bounty, treasury, like all of the governance palettes, also referenda, they are all palettes. So they live in the Polkadot SDK and they are like developed by Parity and then audited and released. But like when we like in the final form of Polkadot, like we can have a much much freer approach here, where we can even say, okay, we want to rewrite the treasury as a smart contract, or we want to rewrite referendum like voting, how the voting logic works as a Solidity contract. That would all be possible. Yeah, this is like one huge plus here. And yeah, reduced need for XCM. Like if everything is on one chain, then you don't need to use XCM so often. Like XCM is like, well, a lot of time and thought went into its design, but it's still easier if you don't have to use it. Just very simple. Okay. So then what are we going to do in order to achieve these things? So like Polka VM, that's probably, I mean, you probably heard about it. It's a new virtual machine design that Parity developed. One very good developer at Parity, Jan Bujak, came up with that idea, and he like kind of wrote the standard for it basically, and made the first implementation. And this Polka VM is a RISC-V instruction set. And now, like quite recently, like a week ago or so, Ethereum also considered switching to RISC-V. So that kind of tracks back to this confirming our assumption points. Like apparently, they come to a kind of different conclusion here on what could be good as on-chain execution. And that kind of reaffirms our research direction that also Ethereum is kind of considering the same thing now. Yeah, and this Polka VM will be used in Pallet Revive. And Pallet Revive is here to enable Solidity contracts. So that's like the main language used for smart contracts in Ethereum. And Hardhat, that's like a very familiar tooling. There are a few more. I don't quite remember the names, and they were quite different from what I was used 5 years ago. So I just put Hardhat here. But yeah, Pallet Revive is basically our bet here to attract a lot of new developers. Yeah, and then the second point is for this data colocation, basically. So we move the data and the logic of the relay to the AssetHub. Yeah, basically already touched on that. But it's just to make it a bit more explicit. So it does include balances, which means that all of the balances that are currently on the relay chain, like of all the accounts, like I don't know, 1.5 million accounts or so, they will all be moved to AssetHub. And then you can use it on AssetHub basically. But like we're working a lot with wallet integrations and like explorers to make this as easy as possible, that users don't really notice it or get any scary alarms on their phone that all of their balance was suddenly moved. Yeah, and it also includes staking. So the staking system underwent a major rewrite over the past several months, where it was changed to work on a parachain. So in this case, AssetHub, since the legacy staking system was like rather simple. As we were using it on a relay chain, we could just use a lot of compute, and then it was rather simple. And now on AssetHub, we kind of split it up into smaller chunks and do a bit of work every block, instead of having like one huge block that could prevent other transactions from getting in. Yeah, and governance, so the voting, the referenda voting, conviction voting, they would be also on AssetHub afterwards. And like one point I don't really have in the slides, but the name AssetHub here is like is basically a technical detail. So like in the end, we want the naming and the messaging just to be Polkadot basically. So like this whole AssetHub migration is basically just a technical detail onto where this logic lives, but it was Polkadot in the past, and it will be Polkadot afterwards. So from an external observer, it's like not really much changed, right? Like you can do all of these things on Polkadot now, and you will be able to do all of them afterwards. It will just be afterwards. It will be like cheaper, and you have additional functionality of contracts. Okay, so let me go into more detail onto how this migration actually works. So I'm going from very general and abstract into a more detailed view. So this is like the very general view. It just has 3 steps. And the first step is like a preparation. That's the runtime upgrade. And we plan this step to happen, I don't know, at some point in the future. I think it will be like Q4 for Polkadot and Q3 for Kusama, I hope. And that runtime upgrade is basically just a preparation. It puts all of the code that contains the migration on chain into the runtime, but it doesn't enable it yet. It's just like inactive. It's just basically chilling there, and it is ready to be used. And then the second step is like the fellowship schedules the migration. So this would be like, the fellowship has a meeting or whatever, and then they conclude, okay, we want this AssetHub migration to take place in 2 days or whatever. At a specific block number, they fix a date, and then they make an on-chain call, and that will then be automatically scheduled for the migration to start at that point in time. And everyone can set their alarm and be ready. There will also be a monitoring website where you can follow it live step by step. Yeah, and then once this day comes, the migration will actually happen, and it will be like autonomous basically. So there's no intervention needed after step 2. It will just automatically at that block number say, okay, I'm going to start the migration, and then it runs for a specific time, and then it's done. Okay, so I will now go into more detail for step 3, so how that actually works. Like step 1 and 2 are kind of like boring in that regard. So for step 3, we have basically, like, again, I split it up into 3 steps. And the first one would be like the relay chain and the AssetHub get locked. So after this block number that the fellowship scheduled, the relay chain prevents certain transactions from happening. It's like, it's kind of necessary. I'm not sure what would be a good analogy here, but normally if you have a database migration, you also need to like kind of pause both sides. Otherwise, if you have some assumptions about their state and you change just one side, then the other side can get kind of like, outdated. So in our case, sorry, I think is there some echo? Yeah. Yeah, I will see. Okay, so yeah, thanks. Okay, so we first lock both sides. Locking in this case means that we prevent certain transactions. That would be, for example, staking and voting on referenda. These are like the critical ones that we need to pause. Currently, we plan to still have balance transfers enabled and NFT transfers and asset transfers. Yeah, we will see how well that works. But there would definitely be, during this migration, we plan this to take like at most 8 hours. It wouldn't be possible to like, vote on anything. So it kind of has to really be precise that it works. Okay, then like step number 2 after this locking happened would be to actually move over the data. And this happens pallet by pallet. So we have a list of all the pallets, and there's staking in, there's balances in, there's governance and so on. And we go through this list, and for each pallet, we again, inside this pallet, go through each storage item. So for example, for staking, there's like the delegations and your staking ledgers and so on. And they go through each of these, takes it out and puts it into an XCM send. And that gets sent over to AssetHub basically. The next slide goes into more detail of this. Yeah, and then after all of these pallets were migrated, relay chain and AssetHub get unlocked, and then you can do everything on AssetHub. So you can then have your staking on AssetHub and the referenda voting and balances and assets and so on. Okay, so I will go into more detail of step 2 now on how that happens. That's actually, so migration over XCM. There are a few ways on how we could have structured this migration. In the beginning, we thought about, okay, we are going to make it hacky. We are just going to kind of rip out all of the state here and then manually copy it over to AssetHub. Or we are going to copy over the data off-chain and then send some proofs that we did it correctly. And all of this was kind of like a bit cheating, and it's also difficult to audit afterwards. Like what we're doing currently, I actually put this as last point here, proper XCM, no cheating. It means that we are using XCM exactly how it's intended to be used. And this basically also proves that that's like powerful enough to migrate your whole blockchain. Like, I think that's quite a good message, that if you can say, okay, you can use XCM even to migrate from one blockchain to another, it works, it's possible. So this kind of proves our assumption that XCM is kind of good. Yeah. And in this case, so we have like two pallets, the relay chain migrator that, oh, sorry, I hear some stuff. The relay chain migrator on the relay chain and AssetHub migrator on AssetHub. And it works like, oh, sorry, I think someone is unmuted.
Yeah, he probably just left the mic on accident.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so we have like on both sides, basically on relay chain one pallet and on AssetHub one pallet. And the relay chain then starts to send these XCM messages over. It's there's like the relay chain has a DMP channel to AssetHub. It's called DMP for downward message passing, because it goes from the relay chain basically downwards into AssetHub. And the other way around, there's like a UMP channel. It's called upward message passing. It goes from AssetHub up to relay chain. And yeah, so basically the relay chain will just send like thousands of messages into the AssetHub, and AssetHub then executes this message, and the data that it should migrate is like inside that message, and it then puts it into its own storage. And that's how it goes for all the pallets, for all the storage items. It takes out the data on relay chain, puts it in XCM message, sends it over to AssetHub. AssetHub unpacks this message, sees, okay, this is something for the staking pallet. I'm going to put it into the staking pallet. And yeah, so far this kind of works. There's like there's like two prototypes, one for West End and one for Polkadot. And they are currently both running in the CI. Every time, I do a change, it kind of again takes snapshots from Polkadot, relay chain, and AssetHub, and then it runs all of the migration logic, and then afterwards it checks that the result is good. Yeah, we hope that we can do West End maybe next week or in 2 weeks the latest, to have it running a bit in its migrated state to see that it's still good. Okay. So that was basically it for the details. Now two more like kind of overall points. First of all, I have here like contracts as Polkadot's punk movement. My idea here is that in the past we have like a very rigid development flow of everything being in the Polkadot SDK, and it's like, I wouldn't say regulated, but it's quite difficult to get something changed there. You need to open a merge request there. You need to get it approved by 2 people. You need to get it probably fix it multiple times throughout the review process. Then maybe it needs to get audited. Like, it can take months if you're an external contributor and don't know how to ping, don't know who to ping. So in this regard, it's like very static, and it's like kind of uninviting to make change. And in this regard, I thought of like similar to punk movement, where it was like, against the current rules, kind of like making your own thing. This is a bit similar because now we allow, basically the community has more control over the runtime. It's not always just the fellowship who has to approve and then a whitelisted referendum. It would, when we have this migration done, it would be possible to rewrite a lot of the current logic that is written in pallets as smart contracts, and that would basically allow anyone to make a change. Like, you can propose a change to, I don't know, the treasury or the bounties palette or anything, and there wouldn't be any need to go back to the Polkadot SDK to change it there, to wait for the next release, to wait for it to be audited. So in that regard, I see it like as a huge amplification of the possibilities that our community already has. Yeah. And for the second point, that's like quite different, but well, like same story for Jam. now after this AssetHub migration is done, we we do it as a preparation for Jam. That's what I wrote initially with minimal relay for Jam. And then once we have Jam, we kind of again need a migration to go from Polkadot relay chain to Jam. So I'm not really sure what my answer here is, but it's yeah, I don't know. It's maybe we'll have another big migration for Jam after the AssetHub migration, which I think personally is not really that great because it takes a lot of effort to communicate with external stakeholders and wallets and everything. Yeah. And on the other hand, we kind of want Polkadot to be stable. We shouldn't really keep changing it all the time. So I think it's like a bit controversial topic. Yeah, I don't really have an answer to this or anything. It's just a point that I thought about. Okay. Yeah. Now would be like the discussion phase. I mean, just general questions or what you're most excited about. I'm still gonna go to the last slide so you can scan the QR code and see my profile stuff. But we can still keep discussing.
Thank you for that session, Oliver. I think it's time we made that switch from parachains to a unified execution environment.
Thanks.
All right, chat, send in your questions or unmute your mic and let's hear you out.
Great. Yeah. Any blind points or anything that I missed or something that you specifically want to know?
So you mentioned being able to rewrite pallet logic through smart contracts. I don't know if I remember correctly, but if that's true, how exactly would smart contracts rewrite pallet logic?
So I'm not sure how I formulated it, but the pallet code wouldn't really be able to be changed by a contract. It would rather be like our current system, everything is written as a pallet. So the treasury, the staking, the governance, the bounties, and so on. It's every one of them is at least one pallet, like sometimes even multiple pallets working together. But we can basically build an alternative system at the same time in parallel. So we can have like a new treasury, like treasury version 2, and that's written as a smart contract. And then the old treasury, like the pallet version, could send some funds to the new treasury, like to the smart contract treasury. And then this new smart contract treasury could do anything at once with that. And from that we could kind of build like an alternative system that does things differently and is easier to change. And then eventually maybe we wouldn't need the pallet versions at all. But yeah, that's kind of up for discussion and direction. Yeah.
I see, that makes sense. One other thing, I think in Ink there's this feature where code can be reused instead of creating duplicate smart contracts and having that bloat the system. Is that piece of functionality present for Solidity contracts?
Yeah, I think if you use the same code again, then it kind of deduplicates it. I think it doesn't store the same contract twice because it realizes that it's the same. But I think you still have to pay for deploying it. So, I mean, we try to stay as compatible to EVM and as possible. So I think that you still have to pay the same amount for it, but I'm not exactly sure. Yeah. I mean, if it was just for us, you would probably pay a smaller amount, but I'm not sure how it works.
Okay, sounds good. Now let's see if we have any questions from the comment section. We have one from Sanchez, and he's asking, how would migrations of services like staking and governance impact parachains like Bifrost and Akala or Akala?
Yeah. So like with Bifrost and Akala, we are specifically in contact around this. Like they also reached out because of their restaking, like the VDOTs. So it's like a big thing for them. They are aware of this and they have their they're kind of preparing for that. I'm not sure exactly how they're preparing for it, but they aren't opposed to it either, from what I know. They just want to have something in advance so that they can test it a few times, and we are preparing that. Yeah, so I think these are the main two that are affected because Bifrost has these like VDOTs. But otherwise, like the parachains, they still keep running at that time of the migration. It's really only AssetHub and Polkadot that kind of have a thing going on. All of the other parachains, they don't notice it unless they send some XCM and want to specifically interact with either of them during the migration.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on parachains that their go-to-market strategy is being an EVM compatible blockchain? I would imagine this might be a problem for them, seeing as the default onboarding like channel is going to be a system parachain managed by the fellowship.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. It's like I'm not really sure what Parity's position is on this, and honestly, I think it's not that important either. Um, but it's like often an observation that there was like inactivity because we assumed that the community would do something. For example, like the wallet situation. Like for the first 3 years, we only had like Polkadot.js, or even more than 3 years, and then eventually we had Nova Wallet. But it took like way too long to go from Polkadot.js to Nova Wallet um, because like nobody. Oh, sorry, I think Becca, you are unmuted. Because nobody really took initiative and stepped in. So um, what I'm trying to say here is that by Parity taking this initiative, we're kind of like improving Polkadot. So sure, like Moonbeam probably doesn't like this. I mean, I understand that they don't like it, but they could have also.
Oliver,
Sorry.
to add on that, Sanchez asked if you think this parachains would migrate their services to AssetHub eventually.
I mean, I don't know what their strategy is. I mean, it's a wider topic that often Parity didn't want to compete with parachain projects, but I think that has not so well worked out for Polkadot in total. Like Moonbeam is good and great on its own, but that doesn't really help AssetHub and it doesn't really help the Polkadot relay chain, and that doesn't really help. I mean, it kind of helps the other parachains, but by having contracts and staking and governance all on one parachain, that definitely helps everyone. So kind of like saying, okay, we are not going to do this just to, not compete with Moonbeam is, I think, not such a great argument here. But yeah, I mean, it will definitely affect them. I think personally they don't like it, but yeah.
I see. Hey chat, we are fast approaching the end of this session. You can send in your questions through chats, aka comment section, or you can unmute yourself and let's hear your questions. And
Oh, I think I see one more
tell us.
question in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. So do you? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I answered it differently. Yeah. About whether parachains move services directly to AssetHub. Yeah. I mean, I do expect that, but on the other hand, it also kind of makes it easier to develop anything on AssetHub, right? Like um, for a lot of things, you used to need a parachain, and now you don't really need a parachain because you can write it as a smart contract instead. So if it's just a very simple parachain, then I expect this to be moved to AssetHub. But it also, makes it opens a lot of possibilities to create new things on AssetHub that you would not have done as a parachain because it's too much effort.
Okay, so I have a question. Yeah, thank you for the session, by the way, Oliver. So my question is for Polkadot, for Asset Hub now, in this case now, um, would there be other like system parachains, added to it? The way we have already, we have the People's Parachain, and then now we're having the Asset Hub. So are we going to have other system parachains for different things? So solidity, native solidity support, is it going to be all on Asset Hub, or it's just going to be another system parachain on its own?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so in our case, we will not touch the other system chains, so they will stay. So the people chain and the core time chain specifically, they will both remain intact. I think personally it's, I mean, maybe we should also move it to AssetHub, but that's at least currently the plan not to do it. Yeah, for the people chain, there are like big plans with the proof of personhood in the future that Gav is working on. So I think there's like something specifically coming that they want to test on the people chain. For the core time chain, I mean, the only thing it currently does is sell core time. There's like one pallet. So I think it's a bit nonsensical to have it on its own parachain. So yeah, I mean, it could happen that in a second wave, we migrate more of these things into AssetHub. But currently, like in this first migration, it's not going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Nice. Yeah. This is like every week this stream or?
Yeah, every Sunday currently.
Nice. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so I see one more question. Thinking about having more services and applications on AssetHub, are there any fears regarding this affecting the scalability of Polkadot? So this kind of backtraces a bit onto our initial design of Polkadot, and like we kind of solved a lot of problems before they became problems, and then our solutions rather turned into problems than solutions. So like we put a lot of stuff onto parachains to keep it scalable, but there wasn't much usage, so it kind of just defragmented the ecosystem in a lot of different spots and made it difficult to use without really increasing our scalability. So yeah, we basically solved a problem before it became a problem. And now with AssetHub, we kind of we take a step back and we say, okay, let's first create this one spot where there's a lot of people using it, a lot of activity happening, and then once that becomes saturated, then we can kind of spawn it out again if we have to. But like on the relay chain, we kind of got to that spot where there were a lot of people using it, but it never really felt as cozy and full as Ethereum. On Ethereum, you often see these like gas spikes and whatever. It would be nice to have this on AssetHub as well, because it kind of shows that there's so much people willing to use it, that even the price can go up. But specifically, parachains in general scale much better than a relay chain, because we can have like up to 100 parachains in just one relay chain. So anything that we can do on a parachain is like 100 times better for us. So in this case, I think it kind of doesn't affect scalability. Also because with Agile Core Time, I mean, we do have async. We do plan to have async backing on Polkadot Asset Hub and Kusama Asset Hub. So it will have actually more compute on Asset Hub than on the relay chain. And then we can even give it more cores if we want to later on. And then it would have like much more compute than the relay chain. So we're actually, increasing the throughput there if we do it on Asset Hub.
Sanchez on a roll.
Yeah, he's on a run. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah, nice. Yeah, thanks, Sanchez, for the questions. Good. Yeah, any more or about Jam or whatever you want to know? Otherwise, I think that was a good session. Yep, cool. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. Then I think we're good. Thanks.
Thank you, Oliver. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah, you
If
too.
in case if anyone wants to have any more, you have any more questions to Oliver, you can always ask DoorDashCon, or you can also check the dev chat, which is developers chat channel open there, and you can always ask anyone any question, at me, at DoorDashCon, at Oliver, or any other uh, team on Polkadot Africa or Parity. And yeah, hopefully you guys have a great evening. And bye, everyone. Thank you, Oliver, once again. And we hope to have you again on our, weekly runtime development sessions in the future.
Yeah, it was very nice. Thanks for hosting. Great. Yeah, good week. Bye.